A millionaire heiress vanished on Fifth Avenue. It was 11 a.m. on Monday, December 12, 1910. Dorothy Arnold stepped out of her family's luxurious brownstone at 108 East 79th Street. She was 25 years old, the daughter of a highly prominent and wealthy perfume importer, Francis R. Arnold. She wore a tailored blue coat, a black velvet hat, and carried a stylish muff. In her purse, she carried a mere $25. Her destination was a simple bookstore. She never returned. Look closely at the file on my desk. The photographs of Dorothy show a young woman of the highest social class, secure, smiling, and utterly oblivious to the void that was about to consume her. On that crisp, cold December morning, she walked down Fifth Avenue, enjoying the winter air. She stopped at Park and Tilford, a high-end grocer at 27th Street, where she bought a box of chocolates, charging it to her family's account. Then she walked to Brentano's bookstore on 26th Street. There, she purchased a book of essays called Engaged Writing by Agnes Replier. Just after leaving the shop, she ran into an acquaintance, Gladys King. Gladys would later recall that Dorothy was in high spirits, talking about an upcoming party her family was hosting. They parted ways at 2 p.m., with Dorothy stating she was going to take a walk through Central Park. That was the last time anyone ever saw Arnold alive. The sun set early that afternoon, casting long, freezing shadows over Manhattan. By 7 p.m., the dinner bell rang inside the Arnold mansion. Dorothy's chair was empty. Most families would have immediately called the police, but the Arnolds were different. They were old money. They feared the press and dreaded public scandal more than they feared for their daughter's safety. Her mother, Harriet, refused to call the authorities. Instead, they began a secret, desperate investigation of their own. That night, they called Dorothy's friends, pretending she was merely staying somewhere else, desperately searching for any clue. When morning came, Francis Arnold summoned his personal lawyer, John S. Keith, to search Dorothy's bedroom. Keith found burned papers in the fireplace. The ashes were cold, holding secrets that had been turned to dust only hours before she left. What did those papers say? What was she trying to erase? Rather than calling the police, the family made a crucial, fatal decision. They bypassed the law and hired the legendary Pinkerton Detective Agency. For weeks, Pinkerton agents operated in absolute shadows. They searched hospitals, morgues, and insane asylums across New York, Boston, and Philadelphia, but found absolutely nothing. It was as if Dorothy had dissolved into the winter fog. Francis Arnold went to extreme lengths to keep the disappearance out of the papers, even threatening to disinherit anyone who spoke of it. Why would a father prioritize social standing over finding his own flesh and blood? Perhaps he knew something the world didn't. The Pinkertons eventually uncovered a hidden life that Dorothy had kept from her domineering father. Months earlier, she had lied to her family, claiming she was going to visit a friend in Boston. Instead, she checked into the Hotel Somerset with a 36-year-old man named George Griscom Jr. George was the son of a wealthy diplomat, but Francis Arnold despised him, viewing him as a lazy, unworthy playboy. To fund this secret tryst, Dorothy had pawned her grandmother's valuable jewelry. When the Pinkertons tracked George down in Naples, Italy, where he was vacationing with his parents, he claimed to know nothing about her disappearance. He showed them a letter Dorothy had sent him shortly before she went missing, in which she expressed deep depression over her failing writing career, stating she could see nothing ahead of her but failure. Did Dorothy end her own life in Central Park? It was the theory her father eventually championed. 6 weeks after she vanished, Francis Arnold finally broke his silence and held a press conference. By then, the trail was freezing cold. He told reporters, "I believe my daughter was murdered in Central Park and her body was thrown into the reservoir." But investigators were highly skeptical. The reservoir was frozen solid that December. If a body had been placed there, it would have been found. The police searched the park meticulously, but not a single piece of her blue coat, her black velvet hat, or her belongings was ever discovered. If she had taken her own life, where was the body? Then came the first shocking twist in the investigation. Police received a tip pointing to an illegal sanatorium in Bellevue, Pennsylvania, run by a doctor named C.C. Meredith. This was not just any clinic. It was a secret facility where wealthy families sent young women to undergo legal medical procedures in absolute privacy. A former nurse from the clinic came forward with a horrifying confession. She claimed that a young woman matching Dorothy's description had been admitted under an alias in December 1910. According to her, the young woman died on the operating table due to a botched procedure. To cover up the tragedy, the clinic staff allegedly cremated her body in the building's basement coal furnace. Investigators rushed to the facility, finding a dark, industrial furnace that was indeed capable of consuming a human body. But without physical evidence or DNA technology, the lead turned to ash, just like the papers in Dorothy's fireplace. As the months turned to years, the mystery only grew darker. The public became obsessed. Sightings of Dorothy were reported all over the globe. She was supposedly seen in a Swiss convent, working as a sales clerk in San Francisco, and living under an alias in a small town in Ohio. Each lead was investigated, and each one ended in a dead end. Francis Arnold spent over $250,000 searching for his daughter, a staggering fortune at the time. Yet, on his deathbed in 1922, he left a will that shocked his family. He left absolutely nothing to Dorothy, stating in writing that he was entirely convinced she was dead. But was she? Or did she successfully escape the gilded cage of her overbearing family, using the chaos of New York City to start a completely new life under a different name? The files in this room remain open, the old yellowed pages holding secrets that the elite of New York society took to their graves. The truth remains buried in the cold earth of Central Park, or perhaps in the ashes of a Pennsylvania furnace, leaving only the chilling realization of how a millionaire heiress vanished on Fifth Avenue.